say real quick before I have to make another video. The LGBTQ community have gone way too far. They're heterophobic, which is not acceptable. Now, what do I mean by heterophobia? Any variation of the sort? I mean, the ones who hate straight people often bash and condemn straight people for the simple fact about being straight. Straight people are getting discriminated against by those who are heterophobes. Heterophobia runs rampant on the internet every day. And I see like, oh, you can't say anything about the homosexuals. That's you trying to silence those heterosexual people, which is not okay. And what I'm proposing is that the LGBTQ community have been illegally forcing their views and their opinions onto people, which is not okay. By the way, I've seen a lot of good straight people be thrown and tossed aside because it is the era of the LGBTQ community. Fuck the straight people. That's what they're saying. The LGBTQ community is just saying, fuck you straight people. Fuck you straight people. That's what they're saying. It's our time. Fuck you straight people. Fuck you straight people. It's our time. Which is not okay. Like, what the fuck? Heterophobia has just been a problem for the past two decades. Started back possibly 3 decades in the past. Like with the whole Tanchi music video and crap like that. Like, I can't even bear to see straight people be forgotten about. That's the biggest problem I'm running into these days. Is the LGBTQ community is taking over everything, every fucking thing that my community, my straight community, has held dear. There are so many games dedicated to the LGBTQ community, and I'm sick of it. Like, why aren't we saying something about this problem? I mean, I see a lot of people, be like getting canceled and shit for no justified reason to get canceled. You have to have a justification, reason to cancel somebody. Somebody who has been born straight does not have no justification for getting canceled. And this is why the influence, the contaminous influence of the LGBTQ community have been spreading in, contaminating the land. I mean, us straight people fear for the very sanctity of our right to free speech being tampered with. Oh, heaven forbid you actually say something about the LGBTQ community. And I'm just saying, if people want to be like, going around being the kind of people who have been putting in the effort to getting their same-sex attraction type thing taken seriously. And when somebody calls those people who support the LGBTQ community heterophobic, the term heterophobia isn't taken as seriously as the disrespectful crap like, oh, it is homophobia. Like, bruh, you cannot get by with calling somebody homophobe. You cannot be getting by with that shit, dude. That's blatant discrimination against straight people. It just baffles me the way people want to be like heterophobia. Heterophobia runs rampant. Heterophobia is the state or the fact about hating and bashing and condemning straight people. It's been going on for 3 decades now. Heterophobia was on the rise in the 60s. Heterophobia wound up going and had like its origins in the feminist community. Because in the 60s, not that I was there in the 60s, but from what I hear, in the 60s, the feminist movement birthed the LGBTQ community in the 60s, which is very disrespectful. From the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, up until now, heterophobia has been running rampant in this world. Heterophobia is bad. And what I'm saying is, it ain't okay to go around like, oh, you can't say anything about the LGBTQ community. You're fucking banned from saying anything about the LGBTQ community. Yeah, I'm coming back to TikTok shortly after. And yet, it just makes me angry though. Like I can't. It's just really frustrating for straight people. Heterophobia runs rampant way too much. Heterophobia has been around since the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 decades of heterophobia going on. Heterophobia and heterophobic crap and heterophobes have overstayed their welcome. For 6 decades now. 6 decades now. Heterophobia has ran rampant for far too long. Us straight people are actually losing our rights. It makes me mad. It pisses me off the way these social media apps, these social media platforms, these social media websites are pandering to those heterophobes. We already got crap going on with people complying with the disrespect, going out there and complying with the disrespectful LGBTQ agenda, which is, I could call somebody who's of the LGBTQ community in league with the Führer himself. You see? It doesn't feel so good to be silenced, which really puts a damper on things. A bit of advice to the LGBTQ community: We don't want to be accused of being in league with Adolf. I suggest you stop trying to take over everything. Which really makes me mad that even all of social media is just going and being in league with the 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 general of the German army of World War II. Bit of advice: stop trying to censor straight people for speaking about the pressing issues that straight people are going through. It's not okay. I can't even speak on what the fuck issues that's going on in the world as regards to straight people going through so much discrimination and hatred because, oh, we can't have the straights trying to overshadow the LGBTQ community. Like, that's blatant discrimination against my people. My straight people are being discriminated against. My Indo-European people are being discriminated against. My Hellenic people are being discriminated against. My Cypriot people are being discriminated against. My potential mystery faction of people are being discriminated against. And furthermore, I got like a lot of issues coming up from the straight people being called homophobe. Like, that's disrespectful to call somebody homophobe. Not you trying to force your opinion up on people if you're gay. That's like trying to force people to comply with your agenda if you're gay. I got it going on in my family because it's a problem. It's a big, big problem. I mean, it's just not a good time to be a straight person right now. Not a good time. Life as a straight person is getting increasingly harder. As where gay people these days have it easier to get jobs, find themselves a significant other, not have to go and waste their hard-earned money on going out on dates, not getting divorced, not being forced to give the money for child support. That is all gay people have been perked and have the privilege of. They have the privilege of not being in family court. They have the privilege of not being forced to pay for dinner dates. They have the privilege of not getting divorced. They have the privilege of having platforms to speak on. They have the privilege of being respected and accepted. Now tell me, what privilege does straight people have compared to the LGBTQ community? What perks, what privileges do they have? That's right. Gay people have more privilege than straight people. Gay people are less likely to be targeted compared to straight people. Straight people are targeted, bashed, and condemned. Straight men are forced to give up their child and three-fourths 2/3 of their paycheck in back alimony for 19 years of taking care of a damn kid that was unwelcomely ripped from their hands. Straight men are forced to get divorces because a woman don't love them no more, or being forced to walk out on their damn kids. Straight men are forced to struggle to get a much more lucrative job, paying their rent, their dues, paying for their own vehicle, while having a kid with somebody who's about to force them to go bankrupt to take care of a kid for 19 years. And being forced to be single because they got a divorce. Tell me. I demand that people tell me, what privilege do straight people have which gay people don't? Gay people have more privilege than that of straight people. I mean, I looked up so much problems that us straight people are going through. Let's take Arcane, for example. That's privilege for gay people. Legend of Korra, privilege for gay people. Harley Quinn, the animated series, privilege for gay people. Life is Strange, privilege for gay people. And Overwatch, privilege for gay people. And Mass Effect, privilege for gay people. Now tell me, what privilege do straight people have? Oh, you got whatever games that still panders to you, but straight people are losing Grand Theft Auto as a whole. Straight people have been losing Bully. What are we supposed to deal with Red Dead Redemption, Red Dead Revolver, Manhunt, the most banned game, like possibly the most banned game that you can't even get at all? What? Like Saints Row? We got a lot of video games that could have been, like, we already lost Street Fighter. We already lost Mortal Kombat. Bear in mind, when Mortal Kombat first started out, it was geared towards straight people. But over time, the LGBTQ community stole that from us because they want representation. Like I can't even take this whole being forgotten. Straight people are being forgotten. We already got enough crap going on. I mean, we already are losing a lot of representation. And we barely got to keep anime for ourselves. But then the LGBTQ community wound up stealing that from us since the 80s, since the 90s. For those uneducated, illiterate, small-minded people that don't realize straight people are being excluded from the LGBTQ. The heterosexuals are not even a part of the community. They're alienated because of that. And people say love is love. This is blatant heterophobic bigotry and discrimination and prejudiceness against straight people that I see on a daily basis. We straight people can't even fight back without the cancel culture, or you can't say anything about them over social media. Like, I am genuinely pissed that heterophobic nature is running rampant on our fucking social media platforms. We need to take care of this problem fast. Heterophobia is running rampant everywhere. And what's really upsetting to me is that I can't even just it blows my mind about how heterophobic people actually are. And those who say, "Oh, heterophobia is not real. Heterophobia is not real. Heterophobia is not real." Bullshit. People are so full of shit to say that heterophobia is not real. It is real, and it's a problem. Like, oh, you posted a homophobic video on a short video sharing platform. You're banned, or you're suspended, or you violated community guidelines. Like, you see how much privilege the LGBTQ community has? They have way more privilege than that of the straight people. Like, I can't even say that a lot of people that are straight get more representation, more privilege, but the irrefutable evidence contradicts that statement that the heterophobia ain't even real. The heterophobes aren't real. The heterophobia isn't real. Heterophobic isn't real. Which is a disrespectful slap in the face to those who are heterosexual. The fear of heterosexual people is on the rise. And heterophobia runs rampant all across the board. Heterophobia is just another problem across the board. And what I'm proposing is that we flip the turn the tide, turn the tables before it's too late. Because a lot of heterosexual people are being forgotten about. Straight people are going to become the minorities in the coming decades. In the coming decades, heterosexual people will become the minority. And it is not at all. It is not at all a lie. It is not an outlandish thing to say. It is the truth. Heterosexual people are going to become a minority. And they're going to become the minority even more. It used to be a solid maximum 10% of the population that used to be straight. Or, yeah, used to be straight. Or are straight. Then one decade goes down in the biblical period. Another decade goes down, and another decade goes down, another decade goes down, and another decade goes down in the biblical period. This was the biblical period of heterosexual supremacy back then. Then in the 10th all the way to the 16th century, heterosexuality was being put into scrutiny. Boom. Then in the 17th century, all the way to the 18th century, bam! Another time period of heterosexuality being ruined. Then in the 18th century, heterosexuality was still prevalent. Then in the 19th century, it all hit the fan. Boom! And in the 20th century, bam! Heterosexuality is becoming quite fucking rare. Quite fucking rare. Which isn't good, by the way. I see a lot of people going around trying to tell people that being straight isn't going to be a thing anymore. Being straight is not going to become a thing anymore because the LGBTQ community has snubbed us out. Snubbed us out. Homosexuality has been a thing since the 1960s, during the dawn of the feminist movement. You have those disrespectful feminists to thank for that disrespectful crap. Like, all men are garbage. All men are the same. All men are dogs. All men are lower than dogs. All men are horrible excuses of pitiful, pathetic excuses of creatures. Like, I don't want to go around getting my head lopped off like it was back in the dark ages where people were using guillotines. Okay, so if being a heterosexual person is a crime, then why isn't more of us straight people being sent to the guillotine? Being put in the Iron Maiden. Being put on a sawhorse. Having ancient, medieval, biblical torture devices inflicted upon us these days for being straight. these social media platforms act like being straight is a fucking crime, a fucking federal offense. If it is a crime, then us straight people wouldn't be fit to propagate the human race. Bear in mind, the LGBTQ community has been more prejudiced, more discriminatory towards people of the heterosexual sexuality, which is bullshit. If being straight, a heterosexual person is a fucking crime, to express outward openly my heterosexuality, my straight sexuality. If being straight is a fucking crime, then lock me the fuck up for being straight. I will not be discriminated against and hated for being straight. And I will not be censored or silenced for being straight. Heterophobia has went way too far in this day and age. That's my biggest problem. I speak for myself. I speak for 2% of a few percent of straight people who are radical straight people who fear for their lives again at the vices in the hands of the LGBTQ community. We straight people fear for our lives out here. We fear that if straight people rise to political power, they would kill us all. They'd have all of us put on death row in prison. A lot of the LGBTQ community would have us put in prison and be put on death row for being straight. So, again, name one privilege a straight person has versus the LGBTQ community. Because there's a plethora of privilege, special rights that the LGBTQ community has, more so than the straight people. If you're going to take anything away from me, take this one thing. Think about what I've said. We need the LGBTQ community to take responsibility for their actions. And we need them to apologize for stealing what little media us straight people have to entertain ourselves. And maybe stop with this whole, oh, we need representation as a community. Do you not know how big the LGBTQ community is? It is more massive than what people think. They outnumber the straight community. They outnumber us. I'm just saying. The hatred that the LGBTQ community and the feminists have for straight people is baffling, speechlessly harsh hatred for the straight people that the LGBTQ community and the feminists have for straight people. I'm just saying. It's time that things change. VIVYN